Welcome to Season 2 of the Deployment Dojo. This is Episode 7, and this is a live show where we talk about software installation topics and other things related to that. And, well, let's just jump into it. David, how are you doing, my friend? You ready to get into this?
Let's do it.
All right. I totally forgot my intro there if you didn't notice. Like, I have a whole thing written down, but I didn't remember it. I thought I memorized it. Anyway, okay. So, I feel like I need to apologize a little bit, David. I tried to take some systems and separate them, break them down, make them to teach each section separately, particularly around item metadata and batching. And what we kept seeing was me having to bring in a little bit of the next concept and then a little bit of the next concept to totally talk about those concepts in detail. Does that kind of ring a bell? How we were kind of exploring options with the percent signs, and then we had all this extra stuff floating around?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So I'd hoped that we could do each individual topic separately, and I think it was okay. But now we're finally going to bring it together with the last bit that actually ties it together. So hopefully there'll be a little bit less of David being waiting for me to explain why this all matters as I try to bring it together, and more of all right, let's actually build something for real from the beginning with everything you need to know. Sounds better than like the last couple days where they've been really abstract concepts, Dave?
Right?
Yeah, they've been really abstract. All right. So to do that, we're going to be talking about inputs and outputs on targets. And I think with this, they're going to build heavily on the metadata that we talked about. They're going to build heavily on batching. So I'm hoping that the little bits and pieces of like kind of theoretical that we did in the last two episodes start coming together in a real world example through inputs and outputs. And then it's all going to start making sense. All right.
Okay.
We have a great set of people here. Eugene, Andy, Zach, and Bert are all here. I think we're missing Martin, but maybe he'll show up later. All right. Let's get into inputs and outputs inside MSBuild.
All right.
All right. Here we are. Empty thing. I think this might be one of the last times that we can actually start from scratch because we're going to get to be a little bit more complex from here going forward. But I'm going to create my project, and we're going to get our target in here, and we'll go from there again. Now, I want to do the same thing we were kind of doing at the end with copying files, because that worked out so well when I deleted everything off my my whole project. Now to go rescue it. I think I can be careful this time and not do that. So let's go ahead and create target 1. We're going to continue to keep these here kind of separate names, and we'll do our usual thing. Importance equals high, and text equals item. We'll do item X again equals all of the items in item X. All right, so let's define our item X up here, include, and we'll do kind of like we were doing before, a.text. I don't have an a.text yet. We are just creating this dojo.proj to start with. But when we run all of this, we should see this target run. We will have hopefully no errors if I typed everything correct, and we will see it print out the list of items that we have, which in this case is 1. All right, so we run this. Item X equals a.text. Cool. Very basic, right?
All right. Yep.
All right. So what we've had so far is our targets running all the time unless we had a condition on them. You remember we could put a condition on our targets that could control whether they ran at all, right?
Right.
All right. But actually in a build system, there's a lot of cases where you'll do a build and then you'll do another build right after that. And ideally, if nothing changed, the build doesn't do anything. Or if your build does many steps, the steps that have already been done are not redone. So the second time you build, is faster than the first time you built because it doesn't redo all the work it had to do the first time. That sounds really useful, right?
Right.
Now, admittedly, our targets are running really fast, but we could imagine them running a lot slower, and then we would feel this a lot more. So to do that, the fundamental driver for allowing you to have targets to say, I don't need to do work, is your inputs and your outputs. The idea being you have a target, you specify what are the inputs to this target, so the files and things like that that your target is going to operate on, and then you specify what are the outputs. How do I tell, or what does this target do? What does it generate on the going out that it can then say, all right, cool. So I take these files in, then I modify them, build them, do something, create another set of files or something, and then you can look at say, cool, if I had the same files in and the same files out, then if I have the same files that came in and they haven't changed compared to the files that I have output, then I don't need to do any work, right? They're already in the right place. Make sense?
All right. Yep.
All right. Okay. So let's define some inputs and outputs on our target so it doesn't run every single time. All right. So we do that by doing inputs and outputs. And this is going to look familiar because you asked me before, David, why did you put inputs and outputs? And you were like thinking, and you're looking at them for quite a while, saying, all right, how do I think about these inputs and outputs? And I said, just ignore them because we talk about them later. Well, we're talking about them now. Okay. All right. So before I ever had this target, I said I had no inputs and outputs, which means the target's just like, I'll just run. I'll just do something. And if you're just going to print a message, that is probably what you want. You have no inputs and outputs. The output is text to the screen. There's no way to say that that shouldn't run again. You could put a condition on if you wanted. All right, so what I'm doing now is I'm saying the inputs to this target is item X, and the outputs from this target are item X. Okay? So I'm saying that the inputs and the outputs are exactly the same. Sounds kind of silly, right?
Okay. Yeah.
It is really silly, but I want to show you right off the bat that this is the feature. If you give it the inputs and they're up to date with the outputs, oh, I thought it was going to not print anything out. I guess if they're the same, it just prints them out. MSBuild continues to get me here. I thought it was going to say, look, the inputs and the outputs are already, oh, no. It ran. This always gets me. This will get you potentially. First bug already, David. All right.
All right.
The lesson's going great. We're going to learn from this. All right. It ran. But I said, hey, here's a.text as my input, and I want to use a.text as my output. That's the exact same file. It's in and out. It's the same file. It should already be up to date. There's nothing to do if it's the exact same file. And yet it ran. Why did it run? It ran because there is no a.text. There are no outputs. The outputs do not exist on disk. So it can't say, oh, you've already done the work for the outputs. So let's create a.text now. All right, this is a.text. Okay, Dojo that. Do a list of the files here. We can say a.text and dojo.proj. All right, cool. Both files are here. Now we're going to do a build. And now MSBuild says, I am skipping target 1 because all the output files are up to date with respect to the input files. And that makes sense, right? The A is the input, it's the output, it's the same file, it's naturally up to date.
Okay.
All right, so how do we fix that? Well, we can do something like put a different output. Now the output won't exist because there is no foo anywhere here. And if I do a run again, a.text, or that target runs again because there's no output that matches it. Okay?
Okay.
Now, another way to do it is I'll put item X back, and then these are lists. And if you remember, we can semicolon delimit all of these. So we could then do foo here. So now we have a.text as the input, and then we're going to say a.text as an output, but also we expect the output to be foo as well. Okay? Foo does not exist, so the target runs again. Makes sense? Okay. Hopefully this is kind of, you're like, okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to change this real quick. Foo, oh, I deleted too much. Foo.text. I'm going to create foo.text real quick. Okay. This is a very strange thing to do generally. You don't generally hard code. Well, I guess you could hard code it. You could say, look, my target always generates foo.text. The output of my target is foo.text. Okay. It's kind of a weird thing to do. But now I have a.text, which is coming in through my item X inputs. I am saying a.text needs to be up to date. Well, that is itself So that's not terribly interesting. But also foo.txt needs to exist and be up to date, and then it'll run there. Okay?
All right.
Okay, so now we're going to do clear screen MSBuild. A.text exists, and foo.txt exists on the outputs, right? So do we expect this target to run or be skipped?
To run?
Should be skipped, because we said
Oh.
foo.txt is here already, and it's up to date, and A.text is up to date with itself, therefore the targets are all skipped. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So I'm now going to change this to bar.txt. Bar.txt does not exist. And it runs again. Okay? Because I said, hey, the outputs include of this target is bar.txt. And no matter how many times I run this, until bar.txt exists, the target will continue to run. Behind the scenes, MSBuild is doing a check. All right, let's make sure. All right, A.text is an input. Cool, we got that. The outputs are A.text and bar.txt. We have, okay, A.text is here. Cool, bar.txt, oh, it's not here. Therefore, run the target. MSBuild is doing all of that every time I run this command over and over. It's doing all those checks to decide to run this target. Okay, so it's actually looking on disk at these things. I switch it back to foo.txt. Foo.txt exists here. Right? A.text, foo.txt, Dojo all exist here. So when
it won't run.
So it won't run now because it's like, good. A.text and foo.txt are here. Boom. Does not run. Cool?
Yes.
All right. And just so it's clear, I don't have to have, I could put, this is the same as doing this. A.text, foo.txt. Still skipping. Right? And if I remove A.text from here, is it going to be skipped or is it going to run? It's going to look at A.text as the input. It's going to look at foo.txt as the output. Is it going to run this target?
If it's there,
it's right here. Right. The foo.txt is there. Therefore, it does not run.
Yeah.
Okay. So that semicolon delimited list is a way of us putting a whole bunch of files in here. All right. Okay. So I said that because A.text exists and foo.txt exists, and you run it, and then it skips the target. It's like, hey, A.text is here and foo.txt is here. It will skip the target. You're like, great, that's really simple. I lied slightly. Okay? I didn't lie. I oversimplified. We can see A.text as the input, foo.txt as the output. I can run this. It's skipping. Okay? Now I'm going to go to A.text, and this is A.text modified. Okay?
Okay.
I have modified A.text. Okay? So A.text is going to be a little newer than foo.txt. Okay?
Okay.
When I run it, it runs again. So it is not the existence of the files, it's the timestamps on the files. Okay? So I updated A.text so it had a later time because I modified it after I wrote foo.txt. Therefore, it runs. And interestingly, I am stuck here forever running. Item or target 1 will keep running until I update foo.txt. All right. So I've edited it. I'll save it. Now foo.txt was edited after A.text. Now when I run again, it got skipped because foo.txt came later. Does this make sense? That it?
Yeah. Is it just checking for the output to be greater than the input? I mean, what is it?
It is looking at the modified times. So the modified times here are not granular enough to show that A.text was modified before foo.txt.
Sure.
Okay. And hopefully, if you stop and think about it, this works because let's say this is the compile target. What does a compile target do during your build? It takes all of your source code that you're typing and editing and doing all the work in, and then you run a target, and it spits out your exe, right? The thing that you build from compile. So then if you do a build, and then you build again, and you build again, and build again, it skips after the first build. But then you go and edit the source code, right? And then you build again, and now your DLL gets built because you modified the inputs.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. So let's see that happen. Let's make that happen now. All right.
All right.
Okay. So we're going to get rid of foo.text. This was just kind of a fake thing, just trying to get ourselves going. I wanted to show it with some hard-coded values. Now we're going to go back to item X. I'm going to do similar to what we did last time. We're going to call this ABC directory, I guess. All right, so we're going to say, let's do the thing we did yesterday where we take a.text and output it to the ABC directory, okay?
All right.
So, or copy it. I want to copy my source files, right? Yes, source files. Is that right? Oh dear, I've forgotten. I always have, because I always have to, I get confused with the MSI syntax when I get, because I always want to use the word folders and such like that. But it's directories almost always. All right, source files and destination files. Okay. Or destination folder. That's how we did it before. Yes. And now we need to use our metadata here. Is this ringing a bell, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll print out our items and a message for that, and then we'll copy all of our items to their subdirectory. And hopefully I got the syntax right. Okay. Now I deleted foo.text, so it's not in the mix. So our inputs are a.text, which is here. Our outputs are foo.text, which are not here, which means that this target's going to run every time until we fix our inputs and outputs, because clearly foo.text doesn't make any sense there. But we're going to start with that for now.
Sure.
All right. Because we know that by doing this, our target will run. And hopefully, oh, and I want to do this also. I want to create a folder. I want to put the files in an out folder so I can very easily delete that out folder instead of trying to delete a whole bunch of files in the same directory, which got me in trouble last time. All right, there we go. Item X, creating the directory out a.bc, copying a.text to out a.text. Cool, and here we are, out a.text exists, and it still says the whole modified thing in it. Cool?
All right, cool.
All right, you're right, great. That's what we did last time. You would hope that would continue to work. It did work. Okay, so now let's turn this around and go, I don't want to have to specify, well, let's now do the other thing. Out abc a.text, right? Because that's where it gets put, right?
Sure.
Out the subdir a.text. So it's going to go, this a.text is going to end up in out abc a.text.
Right.
Right. Okay. So let's go ahead and clear screen. File's still there. I didn't delete it. Okay. Clear screen. Build it. Look, skipping target 1 because all the output files are up to date with the input files. Cool. Okay. We didn't do that. It's very expensive. It's a small file, so it's not that expensive. But that expensive task of copying files, right? We got to skip it. That's great. That's awesome. Cool. Well, okay. Let's take this back. You know, this is a.text copied. Right? So there we go. I'm going to save that file. Okay, so that's a.text here. And if we look at our copy, it's the one that still says modified, right? So I've modified the source one in this directory. And we look one down here in abc.text. It's our old one that says modified. Can you see the ABC directory here?
Yeah, I can see it.
Cool. All right, so I have edited this file. The file in my output is not the same file anymore. It's the wrong file. So ideally, when we run this build, it'll copy it. Right? Because it's different. The one that's in the output of our target is different. So if we run it, boom, copying file. And if we look at it in the editor, this is it, a.text copied, a.text copied. It worked. And if I run this again, look, it skipped it because now it's up to date.
Okay.
Yay, right? Like this is the fundamental basics. We've hard-coded everything to make it work at this point in time. Clearly, this is not going to work because we're doing all of our copying based off of our items and the metadata and everything that we learned from previous episodes. And we've hard-coded our inputs and outputs. So we need to fix our inputs and outputs to match these up here, right?
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to drive that home real quick. We're going to create b.text. New file, b.text. This is b.text. Okay, and I'm going to take, this is a.text. So we're going to go back to a nice clean, this is a.text, this is b.text, dojo.proj, and we're going to put this in the XYZ directory. Okay, and we're not going to change our inputs and outputs. Okay, but I did change A, I changed B. I'm going to do a clear screen. I'm doing MSBuild. And it didn't run again. Okay. Did I not change A? Oh, I changed the wrong one.
The wrong one, yep.
I changed, well, it didn't run. Okay, let's change our inputs. The a.text here again. All right, cool. Run. There, it copied. Great. And notice it did copy based off of our items, our source files to our directories. A.text to ABC A.text and XYZ B to XYZ.text, right? So that all worked. And if we look in our out directory, this is B.text, this is A.text, okay? So far, this all looks good. But then when we do this is B.text edited, right? So I've edited B.text, and I'm going to run this task again. Nothing happens. Why did nothing happen?
Because A?
Yeah, because we're only looking at A. We've hard-coded our inputs and outputs to A, all right? So hopefully that just drills home. We need to now do the same sort of batching concept here in our inputs and outputs, okay?
Right.
All right, okay, Rob, that was really dumb. Let's go do the actual work to make this target reusable. And by the way, like if your target only operates on one file and that's all it does, then fine, you're hard coding it, you only do one file. That's not usually the case in MSBuild. Normally you're building targets that operate on whatever comes from that you find on the system and things like that. So you can't just hard code them. So let's do the work to say our inputs are everything in item X. These are our inputs, A.text, B.text, right?
Yep.
But the outputs are in a slightly different place, right? They're not just item X. They are down here. And it's this right here, right? The subdir, out, subdir. So let's go ahead and grab out and subdir. So our outputs are going to be out and subdir. But it's not just the directory that has to exist. The file in the directory has to exist as well, right? Mm-hmm. So then we can do item x.file name and then %item x.extension. Okay, so this is all just a bunch of string concatenation in the end, but we remember here's our metadata for subdir, and all items in MSBuild automatically get a whole bunch of built-in metadata, particularly in this case, the file name and the extension. Cool?
Cool. All right.
So what have we done? We've said this output list should show all of these bits and pieces here, right? And because if we're ever having problems, well, we'll come to that in a second. Okay, so hopefully this works. That item X now matches all of these. We still have B.text edited, and in our output directory, B.text is not edited. So hopefully with this fix to set our inputs to be all of our inputs, item A, and our outputs now to be this machination to make all these bits and pieces, hopefully this just works. Let's see. And it did, but it did it in an interesting way. It skipped target 1 because all inputs and outputs are up to date with respect to input files.
Okay.
And then target 1 ran, but notice item X only had B.text in it. So it did the copying. This happened. Target 1 does. So I'm going to give you this is summation of everything we did. Do we know why it's printed out target 1 twice? Do you know why? This is
no.
Okay, if anybody in chat, now's your chance to start typing. I'm going to give you 1 second as I kind of go working our way back through it. But the answer is going to be, you should have been typing by now. Okay, the answer is target batching. Because we have this subdir right here and our file name and our extension in this output, okay, this output is running per unique value of subdir, file name, and extension. So it causes this target to say, oh, okay, so I'm going to take the whole collection of item X, and then I'm going to slice it by all unique values of subdir, file name, and extension, and I'm going to run this target, passing in that collection one at a time. Does that make sense, David?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. And the way that we could tell to debug this is, let's go to C.text, and we'll put it in XYZ directory. Okay, so now this item subdir. Oh, I have to create c.text too. Oh, I have to actually create the files now. I used to be lazy and not have to create them. This is c.text. All right, so c.text, I'm going to put it back in the same directory as xyz, directory as b.text, right? Now we're going to see target 1 run for every unique value of subdir file name IMX. So how many times do we think target 1 is going to be evaluated?
Yeah, the one for C.
Yeah, it's going to be evaluated 3 times.
Oh, well, evaluate 3. Yeah,
but only done once because our outputs are set.
Right.
All right. Okay. Does that kick back to where we were before with the whole target batching, item batching, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So hopefully that makes sense. If not, you have to go back and watch just episode 6, I think. If you watch episode 6, you'll see it. All right. So this works. We're getting our target run multiple times, and it's very small runs, right? Where it can't necessarily grab a whole bunch of files all in one go and copy them all in one go, right? So
Right.
it's not as efficient doing that. So, but it's working at least that because we sliced this, and notice that when it sliced this, when it took the batching, it compared the inputs only to those that matched. So what I'm saying is when it ran target 1 and we did this subdir to see this output directory, it compared each of these slices. So subdir is, each of these is unique, right? A.text, B.text, C.text are all unique because their file names are all unique, right? So we're going to get 3 no matter what. And they're essentially the same, that's fine. But the subdirs are also different. But notice that because the file names are unique, the outputs evaluated item X against only the set of items in here that matched. So MSBuild was smart enough to say, oh, when I am batching this target, I am slicing it down such that item X has only A.text on the first run in it, right? And then I compare against the output there. It does not take all of the items and say A.text, B.text, C.text and compare them against all of these, I think. Let's prove that. Let's delete our out. No, I have to, what can I do? Yes, I'm going to edit A.text. Edited A.text. All right. So we hope now when I run this that we only get 1 copy, but 3 target 1 executes still, right?
Yes.
2 skips. And it did. I edited only A, right? So when it evaluates this inputs, it did not compare. So it had options, right? I'm going to put this down here in a comment so we can kind of like explore this because I want to drill this home. So item X has A.text in it, B.text in it, and C.text in it, right?
Right.
At this point. So then when we do these outputs here, we're slicing them into out ABC A.text and out XYZ, I think, B.text, and then out C.text. All right. So we're batching across these 3, right?
Right.
So we end up getting the target 1 run for each of these outputs, right?
Right.
Cool. Now, if our inputs were always item X, right? So I edited A.text. So let's see. Like, this is not the way that MSBuild sees it. It does not see the inputs as all items against this one batch, right? Because if it did, then when I modified A.text, it would find that A.text is newer than B.text, A.text is newer than C.text, and all 3 of these targets would have run again.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to edit this again. Okay, and this is important. I want to drill this home. If I only edited A.text. If MSBuild saw this as all the item X in here for this target 1, then it would say a.text, b.c.text. Compare all of those against this one, and then the second slice would be this one, and then this third slice would be this one. So if I do a clear screen, again, it only did a.text, which means MSBuild does not see it this way. What it does, it says, I see a.text, and I have sliced item X to only be this comparison. And then this one, it said, I'm only going to grab b.text. And in this one, it said, I'm only going to be c.text. And therefore, when it looks at inputs and outputs, it does the right thing. A.text is newer than this, so it executes. B.text is not newer, doesn't copy it. C.text is not newer, doesn't copy it. That's batching across this target.
Okay. That makes sense.
And notice then, that's why in item X, when we see it inside target 1, and I print item X right here, notice how item X only has a.text. See, we can see it. That's the same thing. It did it also for the inputs as well. Okay? Hopefully that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. This is great. Like this is a much better functioning system already. Like now we're not copying all the time. I can go back. Let's edit B and C.text again. And then we'll do C.text and we'll edit it. Edited. I mean, this is nice. So with this one project file here, we're able to handle any amount of inputs, all these different C, A, B, D, all these different texts, and then copy, skip, and copy the 2 that I edited. Right? That's very cool. That's very handy, very smart. You can rate your targets not run all the time. And if these are very large files or your process is very big or important or complex, then you can save yourself a lot of trouble by skipping targets completely. All right. Cool. Drilled that home. Now, the downside of the way that we're doing this by doing batching on our outputs is that we are causing our target to batch. So it's doing one at a time, right? So a.text, and then a.text is being evaluated and done, b.text is being evaluated and done, c.text is being evaluated and done, all individually, right?
Right.
So in this case, that works fine because we're copying one file at a time. I'm trying to think of a process where, let's say you wanted all 3 to come in together. Yeah, this copy example might not work. I was trying where you want to bring the 3 of them together, and I guess it has to be fewer outputs. Yeah, that would have to be the way. So running the same target is fine. It's just this is very granular, right? We couldn't get less granular, right? We're doing one file at a time, which means that target is doing each file check each time and it's doing one copy each time. Sometimes you might be in a process where you're like, hey, I would like to bulk copy all of these things in one go and get them all over there in another go. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you're like, cool. Grab all these files and all those files over there and let's make sure that they all match up for a second. All right. So let's say we want to do that. Okay. That's what we're going to do. Okay. We're going to the second part of the lesson. So before I move on, any questions here? Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to try here in front of everybody live, because we always know that works out great, right? And if it doesn't work out, we'll sort it out. All right, first, are there any questions about this? Because we're going to try to turn this into a bulk copy instead of an individual file copy like we're getting now. Every time we add another file, we get another copy. I want to try to do a bulk copy.
All right.
Any questions here?
I'm good to move forward.
All right, great. So one thing before we go on, I mentioned this in another lesson. You see how I'm doing item X dot here? That's really quite clear. That can make it very clear when you're dealing with items and you're, especially if you have multiple items, things like that. The item X, the item X dot makes it clear which metadata you're pulling it from, right?
Right.
But it's optional. You don't have to put any of these on. I'm going to test this. Well, I say that, but I'm going to test this. And then we're going to run this again, and it's going to do nothing. Great. Still ran 3 times. It did nothing. So then if I add a.text back to its original form, and I do a clear screen MSBuild, and then we got a.text. All right, so everything worked with this shorter syntax. Okay? And the shorter syntax works because it knows based off of your inputs, there's only one item being used here, item X. Therefore, it can find the metadata on item X automatically, and you don't have to be so verbose about item X dot. Okay.
Okay.
So you will generally see this syntax because item X dot, as you saw, made this thing a lot longer, and this shortcut syntax is very popular. And again, and the same thing happened on this. This copy happened to the subdir because it knew that it was operating on this one item, therefore it could do the subdir here. All right.
Okay.
All right. Cool. We're like, that's fine. You're like, all right, great. I got that. No problem. All right. Cool. Now let's try to go turn this into a bulk copy.
All right.
All right. So bulk copy. So what I want is to have it do all of the copying. I want to have my target only run for every time I have another subdirectory. Yeah, something like that. So this is doing batching because there's percents here that match this item up here, right?
Right.
Okay. So I would like to get this target to run one time instead of many times. And so that, let's say, I don't know if this is true or not. I have not measured it. But let's say that this copy is faster if we give it a whole bunch of files to copy as opposed to one at a time. You could see that being true, right? It could be like, let me go gather all the files and then do the whole copying and then doing like a little bit of cleanup. Doing that, like, all right, load a file, do the thing. That could be slower to do it one by one as opposed to doing them in bulk. All right.
Sure.
So I want to do them all in bulk. All right. So to do that, I need to get the batching out of here. All right. So because this, the use of percent signs in here is causing my target to be executed multiple times, or right, to be created for every one of these unique permutations, which is how we get 3. All right. So I want to turn this into 1. But I also want the same ability I had before, where if the outputs are correct and the inputs are correct, then I'm still safe. All right. So I'm going to keep this part here, but now I'm going to do, let's see. We're going to call these, I should rename this. We're going to rename item X real quick. Item, do you want source or in? Or source? What do you like better there, David? SRC, so I have type less?
Yes, SRC is fine with me.
Okay, so I'm going to rename item X to item source. So these are our source. These are the things that we start with, like our source code. And then I'm going to have, now we can do you want to do item target or output? Or out?
Yeah, out. Let's do out.
All right, include. All right, so what I want is to create a group. I want to get the output for all of these guys into this one collection called item out. Okay.
Okay.
Do you remember how we do that? I brought it up in one thing. So we want to take the item source, right?
Yep.
We want all of the items from item source, but we don't want them as a.text, b.text, c.text. All right. Sorry. Let me finish. Let me not get ahead of myself. Item out. Okay. So inputs are the item source. The outputs are everything in the item out, right? And let's just do another one. Item out. And Eugene, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just ignoring you for a moment. Item out dot subdir. Okay. Actually, no, this is not going to work. It took me a second. Okay, cool. So if I run this, item source and item out are the same collection, right? Item source,
yep.
Item out is the copy. I just copy them over, and I'm saying, all right, run target 1 with the inputs and the outputs. So if we run this, we expect it to do nothing. And it did something. How did it do something? Well, that's cool. It did everything I just wanted it to do. Well, every time I do this, MSBuild gets smarter than what I expected it. So it copied to item. Man, it's gotten. It did not used to do this. I promise you. Oh, Oh, no. Actually, I lied.
Nope, something's wrong then.
Something's wrong. It's not. It's running every time now. All right, so it is interesting. Inputs is this. Outputs are that. Wow. I brought in item source. Inputs, outputs, item source. I am printing out item source, item out, and it's running every time, even though they're the same collection. A.text, B.text is... This is not at all what I thought it was going to do. I expected it to say these are the same. And why are they the same? All right, we may jump ahead here because someone's been asking for this for a while. Because this is not expected. All right, we're going to jump way ahead. Because I have a very powerful tool. It's not mine. Someone else made it. Krill made it. Very useful tool. And we're going to go dig into this thing. All right, David, are you ready for... We're going to go do an advanced thing because it's going to dig us out of this problem. I'm not going to go into everything about it, but we need it to dig into this one problem. All right, so MSBuild can generate log files, which will store all this text information for us. In fairly recent MSBuilds, in the last few years, they add this new binary log. So you can do -BL, and it will give you this binary log file. Okay, so ignore all this extra. It gives you a whole bunch of extra diagnostics. But you'll see it now gives me, in my directory, this thing called msbuild.binlog. All right, and if I open it, it's binary. Okay, so you can't open it in a text editor. All right, so I'm now going to open msbuild.binlog. I have the tool to open this installed, and I can make it bigger, I think. Yes, there we go, bigger. This tool shows you detailed information about everything going on inside your project. Okay. Now I don't want to dig into the details of this a whole lot right now, but you can see we have our Dojo proj right here. You can see it shows us our target right here, and it shows us our target one completely. Okay. And there's the problem. And it shows you this piece of information, which MSBuild does not print out to the screen. And that makes this thing worth its weight in gold. So you can see here it's building target one because input file A.text is newer than output file C.text.
Okay.
All right. So you're like, wait, what's happening here? All right. And I should have realized that this was the problem. All right. So this has given us the hint that we needed. That I wish that this would print out when it, well, I guess I don't know where it would print it out because it would have to say, hey, by the way, here's a whole bunch of information that you don't need when running normally. All right. Diagnostically, what is the problem? All right. So the answer is A.text is newer than output C.text. Okay. That doesn't make any sense. A.text is newer than C.text?
Right.
Well, this was the problem I was talking about before. Remember how I said all the inputs it was not comparing them as B.text and C.text because that would always be up to date. Right. Right. Well, now we've modified our target in our new world. The target now is A.text, B.text, and C.text. We're now comparing it to A.text, B.text, C.text, which means if any of these files are newer than any of these files, then it will run all the time.
Okay.
All right. So what's happening? Well, A.text from that the structured log viewer was telling us is A.text is newer than C.text, which is true because I modified A.text more recently than I modified C.text, right? So the whole problem here, and this makes sense. So it is comparing these collections together, right? The problem is that these three files do not have the exact same modified timestamp on them. And therefore, when you compare all of them, well, then one of them is newer than the other one, always.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? A.text, until I edit it again, it could be C.text to be newer. So I'd have to somehow edit all these files the exact same timestamp, the exact same time, and get the exact same timestamp. All right, that's not at all how this works. And that points out our problem so that we can't see, okay, so I don't want item source. Anyway, and it's comparing them in the wrong location anyway, right? That's not where they're going to get copied to anyway. They get copied to the output directory. Okay. All right, that was a little side tangent of why did that not work and why didn't it say it was skipped? It's because this collection is being compared to this collection, and one of these files up here is newer than one of these files down here, so it always runs. All right.
Okay.
So let's fix it. We need to item out. This is not where they're being copied to anyway. We're copying them to the output directory. So we need to transform this item source into the correct string for what they actually are. And if you remember, it's this arrow syntax, right?
Right.
Do you remember that thing? And then you do single quotes. So double quotes on the outside, always double quotes on the outside. We had that in the conditions episode. So then you do your item. So you do your @parent, close parent, and then you put your item name in it, and then you put the arrow, and then you put the transform here. So we want to transform the item source into out / and then I'll do file name and extension, right?
Right.
Oh, and subdir. Sorry. Oops, I forgot subdir. Subdir. / There we go. So that's where these item sources get copied to, right? Subdir, file name, extension. That's what their item out would be. So that would give us, now we would have out, scroll up a little bit, ABC, and then out XYZ, and out XYZ with C.text. Cool?
Right. Cool.
Yay. All right, we're getting somewhere. All right, I'm going to delete this output directory so we can see it happen. All right, A, B, C, Dojo. Let's get rid of this log file because one of the problems with the log file is that you'll end up opening in these and you'll be like debugging, look at the log file, and it turns out it's from a build like 5 builds ago. Just so you go. Anyway, that never happens. It happens to me all the time. All right. Okay. Cool. So we have taken item sources. We have now transformed them into the way that we expect them to be output, and we stored that in the output group. And now we have our outputs in item out, item source. And now hopefully we will see everything working here. Hopefully, right?
Hopefully. Right.
Hopefully. Now, I'm going to be honest. I think this is actually wrong. This should be item source.subdir, right?
Oh,
we want
right.
the source dir from sub. I am curious if item out would work. So we're going to do it this way. Then I want to try again with item out in there too. All right. So because we want to copy the files to the source. And this whole transformation here exists so that we can put the items to map them one-to-one. All right, here we go. Boom. So what do we get? Target one time. Item source is, just as I said, ABCD. And look, our items are exactly as I drew them here. Out, ABC, And then creating directory ABC, copying that file, creating directory XYZ. I don't know why. It did it twice. I don't know why it did it twice. It's kind of strange. XYZ, and then the B and C.text. Okay?
Mm-hmm. All right.
Cool, right? Right. Oh, we did it. And remember, this is destination folder, but we also had a while ago when I first introduced them, we have the destination files. Right? Remember, we said if these match up one-to-one, now the copy will copy them directly for us, and because they're mapped up one-to-one with in order item source with our transformation, now we can use destination files. Remember that from when and we do it. And now we're doing the 3 copy. Oh, wait, but it still copied them. Oh dear. I think we're hit by the same problem. Because our copy is not updating the file stamps. Notice when I ran it again, it's still running the copy.
Yep.
It's still running the copy every time. So we're going to break out that tool again real quick. Generate a build log. We'll bring up our structured log viewer. I will make it bigger so you can see it. Dojo, target 1. Yep, A is newer than B.text. So we are trapped here forever trying to do this batching, and it's never going to work this way. Because now A is newer than B.text. Because the copies are not updating the timestamps. They're keeping the modified timestamp the same when we copy them over.
Ah, okay.
All right. So my example here failed, but hopefully it shows. I actually wanted to show this as a problem because this will catch you when you're trying to get inputs and outputs. When you're getting to this level and you're this is called incremental build. I probably should have said that in the beginning. Being able to do an incremental build where only the targets that change run again. This is a very finicky point. You can get a lot of wins if you can get your build process to be perfectly incremental, so that you don't have to keep rerunning all the time. You're not running a huge process every single time. You can get it to be optimized to get your inputs and outputs just right, so that you can skip a whole lot of work. And this is the problem that you will run into a lot when trying to get your inputs and outputs right, is getting to make sure that your inputs are, when they're modified, are recognized as newer than your outputs, and vice versa. When you don't edit the files, your inputs, that your outputs are and are not modified, then you don't end up doing the work because your output timestamps are up to date. And this is a limitation here where copy is doing actually a pretty nice thing. It's keeping the timestamps for each file as it copies along. It just means I can't use that as the trigger for this here.
Right.
Right. So, where are we at? So how would you solve this? Well, there are little ways to solve this. One of the dirtier ways, or one of the things you can do, and you have to do this sometimes. So this isn't usually a problem for a lot of tools. Like when you're compiling, you're taking your source files, the task that you're running inside there is crunching them, doing something to them, and spitting out a whole new output. And when it spits out that whole new output, it gets a new timestamp on it. And therefore, you don't have, it gets a new timestamp, so therefore the output is newer than the inputs and everything just works correctly. If you don't have that, like this case, you can do something where you create a temporary file a lot of times. So, oh gosh, I'm trying to remember the name of the MSBuild, and I'm not going to remember it off the top of my head here. Oh, it was that. Okay. It is write lines to file. Okay. So then you can create a little sentinel file. We call them like a sentinel file, right? Copy.txt. And then we can put in here also the lines. Yeah, that's what it is. Out, item, out. Okay, so what we've done is we said, hey, here's our copy of our source files, item source. Here's where we're going to put it. And when we're done, we're going to create this little file in the output, in the out directory where we put them. Oh, wait. Yeah. In the out directory. Yep, sorry. And we will say the outputs now is out copied.txt. So now, as long as out copy.txt is newer than those, which it will be because we're writing the files all every time, then this should get skipped. So let's go ahead and try and see if I got that right. All right, cool. So it ran once, and hopefully we're looking out. There's now a copy.txt. And look, that's kind of cool. It now shows us the files that we copied. This could be useful for auditing your build. Now the moment of truth, drum roll please. If we run it again, hopefully we'll look at our item source, our output copy.txt, and skipping because the outputs are up to date with the inputs. So the copy.txt is newer than any of the files we copied. Yeah. So that worked. Now we need to make sure the next important part works. When we edit one of the files, can't forget that. All right. And we come back here and
it better only do one.
It better only do one. Well, it's going to run all of them. It's going to run the copy command all together. Yeah, okay. Oh, okay. And it did all three of them again. Yeah, but because we did them in bulk, right? If one changes, you have to do all of them.
Yeah. I gotcha.
So, and now it ran because one edited, and then if I run it again, it does not change it, right? And so there you go. So I didn't expect to talk about Sentinel files, but they are a way kind of out of this problem. If for whatever reason the task that you're using does not create an output where the timestamp is updated each time it runs. Eugene says to update the copy time, use the copy command and overwrite the files. Will that do it? Let's see. Maybe it will. There is an overwrite. I always forget. I need to go look up the copy task again. There is one because I don't do this very often. Eugene says we can maybe get the copy task to overwrite for us. So I am looking at the MSBuild documentation here. I'll just show you. Grab it from off this other monitor over here. Overwrite. Is it just overwrite? No. Skip unchanged. Overwrite read-only files. No, there's skip. Oh, skipped unchanged files. We should probably add that. That will do what you were asking for, David, to only do the ones that didn't change. Let's see. All right. There is no overwrite, I don't think. But we could add skip files. It's true. Okay. Out copied. So now we need to edit A again. Save, clear screen, build. Hey, look, there it did it. Okay. Copy file from A.text to A.text. Cool. That works. So there it skipped unchanged files, which is kind of what you were looking for. All right. So the fact that copy file preserved our original source file metadata modify times is what caused this task to never be updated. But you could see how we were able to slowly transform this into a bulk copy instead of a target being batched and run over many different, running many times in it. I'm not saying one is better than the other depending on what kind of system you're building. Given what we had here, I would actually say, especially after our exploration, I would say the better solution for what we have for target 1 is actually the one we started with in the first kata, right? Where we went through and we had it batching over all of them, because then it would only copy the files that changed. Dave, right. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And this whole Sentinel file is a whole lot of extra work and extra files and extra things to get copied. It's a whole bunch of, because like there's a downside to this too, because like if we delete this b.text and I did a build and then I do another build, it gets skipped because the Sentinel file is already there and you don't get it included in the list of outputs. Therefore, it doesn't recognize that a file's missing. And that's a huge problem when using Sentinel files. I'm glad I remembered to bring that up. So Sentinel files have lots of challenges with them. So I do not recommend using them except where sometimes they really are like helpful, the only way to do it. But keeping in mind, so this turned out to be basically what I wanted. I wanted you to think about the inputs and outputs, what we can do with them, and how powerful they can be to prevent builds from running, and then seeing how finicky they can be as you work through the problems of being able to figure out, oh, okay, so this is the item source. If any of these are newer than that, then it runs, and then hopefully the other way around. If none of them are newer than those, then it doesn't run. If any of them are missing, so on and so forth. All right.
Right.
Cool?
Cool.
Cool. All right. Let's go to Sparring, see if there's anything else. All right. David, do you have any questions? If not, I'm going to go back and chat real quick.
Yeah. Check chat.
All right. I have a thing from chat because Eugene brought up something earlier when I said I wasn't ignoring him, and then we'll go from there. All right. So if you don't have any questions, I'll tackle that. So Eugene brought up the idea that instead of calling it was item X in the back, or in the beginning, instead of calling item X include equals z.text, doesn't matter. Instead of calling it that, you should call it like group X dot or include, right? So now it's like, hey, it's because and the idea is there is oh my god, I'm doing that again. I keep forgetting. Back to main. Okay, sorry. So go back. So I'll just repeat myself. Eugene was saying that hey, instead of calling it item X with z.text, you should instead call it like group X.text because he's kind of focusing in on the fact that items act like collections as well as objects. And while I don't necessarily disagree with that way of thinking, that's not the convention. I got the word right, David. The convention in MSBuild at all. MSBuild items are almost always, and when they're not, it's usually someone that didn't follow the convention from what other people have done, are almost always singular. So this would be, for example, you could call it file, but not files. Okay, so it's it's just the way they think about it. I think it's because when you get down here, when you start using it in tasks and such, you start thinking about it more as individual items than you do as a collection of items. Does that make sense? So the convention is to use singulars and not plurals. So for example, in C#, right, you'd have program.cs, and they call it compile. That's the item is compile these, and then you could have multiple of them. I don't know, class 1.cs, whatever, right? Again, they're singular. It is not like compile files or source files, although source files makes a lot of sense. That's what those are. Instead, they just go with the singular compile. Okay, so that's why I've also been doing the same thing. I've been naming them singularly, and I've been trying to focus on the fact that they are individual items, but all grouped together in a collection. So that's why I don't call them groups and such. Does that make sense, David? Did I explain that well?
Yeah, it makes sense.
I mean, it is, and it's not a fight that I'm going to defend. It's just one I'm going to tell you that that's what is done, and if you want to look like everybody else in MSBuild, stick to singular and go from there. I do catch myself sometimes switching to plural at times, and catching myself and be like, oh, that should not be plural. I don't think any more exists in the Wix targets, which are like the largest targets that I maintain that many, many, many people use. I don't think I have any plurals left in there for any items, but I understand the tendency to go that direction. All right.
Right.
Cool. So hopefully this made a whole lot more sense than the last two episodes of the why and the how and how it all comes together, David.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly felt like you're like, okay, I can actually see it doing something, as opposed to why do I care about these percent signs and such like that? Okay. But we've used metadata, the file name on these items, and we've used batching. We don't have batching on the screen anymore. We had batching before. And then we've also used transforms. All that together of all these building blocks to put together our inputs and outputs so that our target runs only when we want it to. All right. So we're going to leave it. We're going to start putting together some more structure here. This is why I said this might be the last one where I write everything from scratch, or maybe we write one more from scratch. But I think we're going to try to start building a system from here to start doing more interesting work where I don't have to start over from scratch every time. And we'll build something and start experiencing some of the problems and bring in a few more concepts, MSBuild concepts, and then maybe we'll start making our own tasks and other type things like that to do all the work that you might need to do inside MSBuild. And then you'll be not just beginners, but you get to the end of all these lessons, you'll know quite a bit. I figure maybe 15 or so, or it'll be less than 15, maybe 12 episodes. You'll probably have a really solid understanding of MSBuild. That's my goal. Cool, Dave?
Yep, sounds
all right. That's episode 7. It's great. Glad you guys are all here. Until next time, keep coding. See you guys later. Bye.
See ya.